how do I build more emotional resilience to deal with these things? Because sometimes things are one thing after the other. And they were just so kind. They immediately, said, come bring it in. We're not going to charge you anything. But they put it back together. And that piece, I gave it as a surprise to my parents. Things that can be broken and things can be an absolute disaster, and you don't get what you used to have, but you do get something new, something different. Not everything broken has to be bad, has to be ugly.
Welcome to Caught Off Guard. I'm Jessie Zarelli, and this is a show about the moments that hit us out of nowhere and why that's usually where life gets a little interesting. Each episode, we dive into the gut decisions, chaos, intuition, and curveballs that end up rerouting us, often more authentically than any grand plan we had. You'll hear from a range of people who have all been caught off guard in their own way, and how those moments push them somewhere they didn't expect but ultimately needed to go. Okay, now let's get started. So I have to start this out by apologizing firstly because I just learned that I mispronounced Alyssa Liu's name just over and over and over again, which is really unfortunate. It also sucks because I looked it up. I watched a bunch of videos about how it's typically pronounced Liu, but some people will request that it's pronounced Lou. Then I saw an article that said she asked for her name to be pronounced Lou, only for another article and people to come out last week saying that she said everyone's been mispronouncing her name and it's actually Leo. So apologies for that. That kind of sucked. A lot of misinformation out there and it got the best of me. So I started the week out on what I thought was the right foot by signing up for a CrossFit class. So I signed up for a class at this gym I really love, and we were doing hang overheads. I don't know. I'm so bad with the names of things. You would think I've literally never looked at a barbell before. It's not a clean. It's when your arms are straight over your head and your arms are really stretched out far, and you like semi-clean it and then you bend down and squat. It's really, really hard. There are so many exercises I can do with CrossFit where I can lift really heavy and I feel very strong. And I actually am really strong for my body size. Well, I am strong, but that is one exercise where I feel so weak and it makes me feel like I have no idea what I'm doing. It's very humbling. So what's sad about it is I started out the week signing up for this class, doing this workout, and I was struggling with it so much. The trainer who owns the gym had me drop down to the trainer bar. I was so sad. I was just going to do the bar without any weight on it. And he was like, no, I want you to work up to a weight. So start with the trainer bar, which is 15 pounds instead of 35 pounds is a typical bar for women. And so I started at 15 and I worked up to 35. It was a tough workout though. It was very wrist heavy, which I also feel like my wrists aren't that strong. So it was that exercise, whatever it's called, wall walks and then rope climbs. I'm really good at the rope climbs. I've done wall walks before, but I typically only do one or two at a time. I don't like being upside down. I don't like that feeling. But I did all of them, which meant I did maybe 10 or 11 in total, whatever the workout called for. And it wasn't that bad. I felt pretty badass doing it, but it balanced out with, me doing the baby bar. So anyway, I thought it was pretty funny. I signed up for this workout and I left and I was like, I'm not feeling that confident right now. I have been really nostalgic for travel lately. I haven't left the country in almost 3 years, which is very sad for me. And I've been doing lots of research on all of these solo international trips. And I don't know, I just feel so excited that I found that these programs exist to begin with, that there are also so many people out there who want to go abroad and maybe they don't have the partner or the group or whatever, and that's not stopping them from doing it. And yeah, I feel super stoked. So at first I was wanting to go somewhere that I've been before, and now I'm sort of opening up my eyes to other possibilities. Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening. The reason I've been wanting to travel too is not just because it is one of the greatest things in the world, but because it also feels like a big piece of me, like that adventurous, spontaneous, go with the flow side of me. I feel like I'm missing it a little bit. And I've said this before too, how, when you're missing pieces of you, you don't have to wait for something to happen. You can go create that, of course. So I have been thinking of how I can bring more of that into my day-to-day life, be more adventurous and, have new experiences or allow myself to be spontaneous. But I do feel like I'm in my masculine energy a lot day to day. I have, like most people, a pretty structured life, right? You have like a job and all of these responsibilities. And what can be so nice about travel, especially for me, is having a little bit of structure, but allowing some magic to sort of unfold and not having all of the answers, right? Going to a country that you haven't been to before where you're unfamiliar with the culture, the currency, the language, the food, everything is different, and how exciting that is. And just having all of your senses feel so alive. I think that's what I'm really, really craving. So this last week I had been looking to go away and it just wasn't going to work out. So I was looking up, different workshops, and I came across this workshop on IFS parts work. IFS stands for Internal Family Systems. So it was that based in parts work. And I don't really know how to explain it, except there are all of these parts to us that get triggered. And when they get triggered, it's actually the childlike part of us that's coming up. So if someone says something to you and it's a trigger point for you, the emotional response you're having is not really you as an adult. It's you as the child who may have had that thing said to them or experienced that thing the first time. And that's why things can feel so triggering for us, and we can feel like we're reacting irrationally to it, because it really is like we're stepping back in time and almost acting like our child self. So it ended up being a really fun weekend. And what drew me to it is I called the woman, her name is Aileen O'Hare, and we had a conversation, and she just had such light energy. And she said, healing doesn't have to be this hard, difficult, heavy, challenging thing. I feel like the winter has been really tough. It's been tough on everybody, and we're coming out of it. And I just want to have a good time. I want to have fun. I want to play. And I feel really drawn to that lately. I feel like we are always healing. And that is a beautiful thing about humanity, actually, is that we get to change and evolve. But sometimes it can feel really heavy. And I think I'm starting to get to the beginning of feeling like, oh, this is a lot. And I kind of want to just like have fun and go to the beach and dance and party, But how can I do those things in an intentional, conscious way and not throw everything out the window? So it was nice to have a lot come up and play. What was really funny is the first day too, I left feeling as though it wasn't that effective for me. I had some realizations come, but I didn't feel like I had any big breakthroughs. And obviously I know it can transpire in all different ways. But the second I got home, I had a complete fucking breakdown. Like a complete breakdown. And I brought it, in the next day, I told everyone what happened to me. And Aileen said, well, you got your money's worth. Like, congratulations to you. You broke down something that needed to go, basically. And that is what it felt like. It felt like I was shedding some stuff. And the next day I felt really light. And since then I felt really light too. So the weather is still fucking with me a little bit, and other people as well. I mean, March is so dicey, but the sunny, warm days we have feels like it's filled with so much hope. And then for the next day to have that ripped from you feels kind of heartbreaking. So in this episode, which is a really great one, I make a little reference where I talk about alchemizing hardship, and I say turning shit into gold. And I just wanted to give credit where credit is due. That is a term coined. I mean, I'm sure many people have said it, but at least where I learned of it was through a woman named Amanda Francis, who has digital courses, and she has a course on turning shit into gold. So I just wanted to, like I said, give credit where credit is due. Okay, so I would love to sit here and chat for a million hours. I'm actually very excited that my next episode is a solo episode, and I already know what I'm going to do it on. I'm finally going to talk about TBM, To Be Magnetic, and why it is so fucking amazing and everything I've learned from it, and give you a little bit of a breakdown, because I had a lot of people reach out to me asking me what TBM was. I posted about it on my Instagram. And then this last week, I ran into a bunch of people who were members. I started a local chapter in the Hudson Valley. We have over 30 people in it, which is really exciting. And we had our second meetup last week. I think there were 6 or 7 of us who came. I'm bad at counting. And they were all new people that I hadn't met the first time. So the community is growing, and it just feels so wonderful to keep running into people who also understand the language or have at least heard of the program. So I want to give you a nice rundown of exactly what it is, what it looks like, and then I can give you links to go find some more information. So today's episode is with my dear, sweet friend, Aileen. Aileen Kyoko is a Japanese American actress, screenwriter, playwright, and photographer. Her film Bye Bye Blackbird is in pre-production right now, and the storyline follows a woman during the Japanese internment camps in 1942. Aileen and I met on set about 2 years ago. We actually met on the same set where I met Michael Tyler, the first person I interviewed. I promise I'm not going to interview the entire cast, although there are a couple of other people that I met there that are really special who I'd love to interview. But we met about 2 years ago, and at the time she was living in Los Angeles and was staying in New York for a bit. I was in New York, then I moved out to LA, and we spent a lot of time in LA together and just had so much fun. And now we have some mutual friends, and I miss her dearly. I highly recommend starting a podcast so you can have really good conversations with your friends. But this episode, and I touch on this in the actual conversation that we have, is so interesting because it was not what I thought it was going to be. Eileen's family lost her home during the LA fires, the Eaton fires last year. I believe it was January 8th, 2025. And I thought this episode was going to be about that because that is a massive thing that's happened to her. It is a trauma that not many people can relate to. And there were also other things that she was dealing with and grieving in her life. And so I thought the episode was going to be about these topics. And it turned out to be something else. And that's what I really love about having these conversations too, is every time so far I go in with an idea of what we're going to talk about and it transpires into something else that I think is really beautiful and that I hope is helpful and inspiring to people, but definitely something I think other people need to hear. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, here she is.
Hello. Here I am.
America's Pilates instructor. America's only Pilates instructor.
The only one that exists. Yeah, you only have one shot.
This is your chance. You got to go to LA. I mean, honestly, if you want to do Pilates.
You should go to LA, yeah. I'm so happy to see you. Like, I haven't had like a visual Jessie in a minute.
Here I am. You just passed the test.
I did pass the test. Yeah, it's emotional, honestly, just because it was so much work, but not just that, it was so outside my comfort zone. It was something I always thought I wanted to do, but I had like so much imposter syndrome stuff. I mean, I honestly still have that, but yeah, it just feels really good to know that, okay, I could do that. I could go through this whole course. And I just think I was also really lucky to have really lovely, nice people supporting me, whether it was instructors or studio owner or the people part of my program. I think I got really lucky in like just people who are just so supportive on the journey. So.
Did you feel like the imposter syndrome was about actually being an instructor and leading a class and being able to handle a group? Or was it also about going through the whole program and being able to finish it and pass the test?
More the latter. Yes. I think I was mostly nervous. Interestingly, since we're actors, the part where I'm hosting group classes and like, teaching people, that came easier to me. And also the creative part of coming up with a class flow, that was so much fun for me. I think it was just like, just thinking about taking a test and passing it and all this anatomy stuff, because my mind has always been very creative brain and like screenwriting and acting and like photography. And it has not been in these things that are just much more science-based. So I was trying to wrap my mind around like that was going to be a challenge for me. And also a lot of people coming into this program they're either already mat certified or they're a dancer. So I had none of those things. So I was kind of coming into being like, do I fit into this movement world?
I like that you said there's creativity in creating the workouts, because I think that's true. And I'm realizing the more I talk to people about, what makes them an artist or what makes them creative, there's creativity in basically everything we do. We just don't realize it. Like we'll look at certain jobs or roles as not being creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're assigned a class, how does that work? Is it, hey, you're doing a class that is a higher level, or maybe it's an easier, like more stretch based, and then you get to choose any of the routines you want to do?
Yeah, so that was really fun part of it, because when you're going through the teacher training, you have to complete 70 hours of teaching people. The hours are going to be a mix of different skill levels and athletic levels. My most frequent clients were my parents. And so they're in their 70s. So, coming up with workouts for them versus then some super athletic people or people who already do Pilates on a weekly basis came in. And then working with some people who had certain injuries. I know once you start to get to know the client too, you know their level. And then I really like to like kind of challenge people and I'll be like, every time we meet, let's just make it a little harder. I had a couple people who were really brand new to Pilates and fell in love with it through our weekly sessions, which was really fun to like share. This one guy was like, every day before I see you, I like my muscles like it feels like it needs Pilates and it's like ready for you. And he was like, my muscles are already sore. And I was like, really? That's so cool. And but he was like someone who never did it before and what became really into it. You can improvise if something goes, so you come in and someone's like, hey, I don't really want to do any glutes today because my butt's sore or something, which has happened.
Mm.
But what's the crescendo of the class? Like, what's the warm up? It's kind of like a movie script, the middle of the
I
class. And then you're in like the climax. Like, there's the climax and the cool down. So you want to like create something where people feel like, yeah, okay, I got warmed up. I tried new things. I really challenged myself here. I really pushed myself here. And now I start to like chill out.
Do you have a certain demographic you gravitate towards or you like teaching more?
Not really. It's been fun to teach my parents in a different way just because, like, as a daughter, I feel like I'm helping them. And so that can feel good. I mean, it is really fun to work with people for sure who are just down for a challenge and introduce new things to them.
Mm.
And I just love when people are like, tell me that they're really sore the next day. And it's not like everyone always has to be sore, to have a good class. But I do think that it is a sign of like just growth and pushing yourself a little bit, as a person who works out a lot.
I don't like being so sore where I can't sit down and stand up. I find that to be pretty irritating, but like
Oh,
the
yeah.
general soreness of, you've pushed yourself a little bit, I like it. Like it feels good. It's kind of a rush because you've worked
Yes.
hard.
Yeah. And Pilates is never that kind of like, at least for me, I don't feel like it's like solid core or something.
Oh my God. Don't even get me. I never want to do a solid core class again.
No, I
It's
can't.
also, why is it so loud and so dark? Like I can't see or hear.
It's not good for like your form because you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. They're not really, I mean, yeah, it is effective, I guess, in the sense that after I like cannot walk for a few days, it just really honestly is brutal. But that is a tough workout. It's not like fully my thing, but I respect the people who do it.
Yes, respect. That's right. So, how long have you been doing the training? When did you start?
I started the training in September. So we went through September, October to mid-November was lectures. So that's the first thing you do. So you have to kind of like pass all that first. Now you have a year to complete your hours to do 70 hours teaching, 50 self-practice, and 20 observing. So you have to complete all of that. And you have, like I said, a year. I did do it a little fast, but I felt motivated to do it fast. Yeah.
Yeah, because you want to teach, you want to get into it.
I think it's been like my fuel for my emotions as well. And like, yeah, I had this opportunity and it's like, why not just get it done and focus on it?
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I feel like a lot of people can, and it's like the good thing to lean on when you're going through stuff because there's a
Um,
lot of bad things to lean on. It's almost easier to lean on the bad things, but to have found something that is healthy and moves your body and you feel good about and is now turning into a job. I mean, that sounds perfect, like a very, very good decision. How did you get into wanting to teach?
As you know, I'm an actress, writer, and I think I've always had different side jobs and some that I've really enjoyed and been super grateful for. And I do think a lot of last year there was like a period that I was feeling very stressed about these side jobs and stuff and just something like wasn't working. I have always thought about Pilates because I've been doing Pilates for a couple years now. I just knew every time I left class, I was like, I love Pilates. I had like the
Yeah.
same thought every single time. I was like, wow, I really love doing this. So I was kind of just going through the side job situation and I went to a class with another ex-boyfriend in the fall
This is
and
a good story.
and we were in the class together, and I was frustrated a little bit with the teacher because they were not helping him. And it was like one of, he hadn't done it very much. And I
Mhm.
could see things that I was like, "Oh, I wish I could like align his body like that, but I can't just jump up in class and just start fixing things. So after class, I realized, you know what? Maybe I should do this for real. And then I looked into a bunch of different programs. I've sat down with instructors. I've got done all the research. And then there was a particular program that a good friend of mine was part of as a teacher. And basically, I was like, you know what? It's like now or never because it was starting in a matter of weeks. And I remember feeling like so unsure because it was like you had to put a chunk of money in, of course.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? We're just going to jump in and hope this works out.
I feel like that's a really good driver for a lot of things. You see people doing things and you know you could do it better. Right. Well, I guess I'll just do it because people can't figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you could be a Pilates instructor, a lifting instructor. I'm like, is there a running instructor? So,
Think about it sometimes like, oh, I could be like a group instructor. I love a mix of all different workouts. I think that's kind of
mhm,
been I say it like a problem, but maybe it's not. But I
yeah.
have been mulling it over. And as you know, I've sent many voice notes about your
Yes.
Pilates training and how much
Yes.
I've loved hearing about it. You said before the way you worded it, or part of the reason that you moved so quickly through the training, you had a year to do all of these hours, but then you did them in 3 months. I'd like to just hear from you, like kind of what you were working through.
We can backtrack
Yeah.
to 2024. I've just had a lot of life changes in the past, year and a half. I think so this experience has really signified for me just a moment to step into my independence and take control of my life because there's definitely been lots of things that have happened outside of my control and everyone, experiences this. But I felt like it was really time to kind of step into my power, take life by the balls,
As they say.
as they say. December 2024, my long term relationship had ended, and I went to go live at my parents' house to just sort of like figure out whatever the next step was. That was actually a time I was contemplating Pilates. I was looking into it. It was definitely way over my head at that point. It was really hard for me to imagine doing it because I was really stressed about how much it would cost with the timing. And I was just like so in limbo. Like I didn't have a home anymore. So
So
at that point, it was only a few weeks later, I went to New York after, been living in my parents' house for a few weeks. And then that's when the Eden fires happened, the Palisades fire, and my parents' home burned down. And that was just like one of the most shocking things that obviously happened in our family. And it was really just kind of kick-started a lot of the new chapter of my life. And I will say that there were a lot of things about that new chapter that were incredibly difficult and involved a lot of transition. And there were a lot of things that were blessings. I ended up moving to my own apartment and kind of started my life set up because at that point, in a sense, I didn't have a choice. And I think since that's happened, this is sort of the continuation of that journey towards independence, like self growth, confidence, and learning how to be emotionally resilient, honestly, because things are just like sometimes. The other day I thought about, because I just watched one battle after another, and sometimes I was like, life is that it is just one battle after another sometimes.
So
Hmm.
it was a breakup, and then it was the fires, and then discovering now this need to take care of yourself in a whole new way because
Yeah.
all of the resources that were at your disposal before, you didn't really have the option. Like it forced you out of that and forced you to take care of yourself in a different way. And like you said, reach this empowerment and financial care, I think you said, of like at the level that you wanted to be. And that's a lot. I was thinking about how a lot of the challenges we go through in our lives, many people can relate to, whether, like you just
Yeah.
mentioned, two breakups. Two breakups,
Mhm.
you're an actress, you're a writer, you're a producer. So people who are in that industry can relate to the challenges, having a
Mhm.
project, struggling to get it funded, getting it funded, running out of
Mhm.
other types of resources, the time, the
Yeah.
stress, the new skills that you have to learn. But then going through not only a house fire, a city fire that affected
Yeah.
so many people on this grand scale. I don't know, what is it like a year later having gone through something like that, that the average person just can't really even fathom?
Something I'm working on with my therapist is emotional resilience because I'm also a very sensitive person and a very emotional person. And so,
Pisces moon, right?
right? Pisces moon, not that I know what that means, but
It's okay, I do. You're a
okay, yeah,
sensitive
I know.
girl.
I should have, yeah, I miss seeing you and you telling me what the
Yes, I did that for,
astrologist
like, what, 9 months? Every time I saw you, I'd go, "Happy Leo season, happy Virgo season."
every time I was obsessed. I was like, this is great. I always know what's happening in the stars every time I see Jesse or the moon.
I'll text it to you now.
Oh my gosh, please do. Yes. So this is Pisces moon now.
Pisces season,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like I'm very sensitive emotional person, so but also can get kind of stuck in my feelings and like the spiraling and that. So it's like I was telling my therapist like how do I build more emotional resilience to deal with these things because sometimes things are one thing after the other and of course there's gratitude and there's thinking about the things that are working and I am trying to work on doing that more for sure, but there are things that I just take really hard, like even just like, putting a lot into a callback and not getting it or something. And it's like, I
Mhm.
know like logically, it's like, this is what I signed up for. In some ways, I feel like, okay, maybe I've become a bit more resilient after all these things. But
Mhm.
sometimes I feel like I'm still just going through it, still, like I'm still going through
Mhm.
aftermath of things and trying to find the balance between being emotionally resilient and having tools for yourself and also yeah knowing where you feel like your feelings are allowed and you can lean into them and you can like cry and I know you have been a big encourager to me to feel my feelings and I know you've talked about with ayahuasca and how there's a lot of yeah like purging that we need to do.
I feel like when people think of emotional resiliency, they think of, like, being hardened to the thing or being, like, really tough. I think part of the emotional resiliency is being strong enough to feel those feelings because it can be really scary to go in. Yeah, you feel them and then you kinda move through it, but then it comes in waves too, right? Like you said, you feel like you're
Mhm.
still in it sometimes and you're still processing, right? This was a thing that happened just over a year ago. Do you feel like the things you're processing now, like, are they different than what you were processing a year ago? Or is it does it come in loops?
I think I'm processing different kind of stage of all of it. For sure, the fire was like huge, and I think it's still sort of an ongoing challenge for my family to deal with the aftermath of it. And I think there's something about sometimes I'll say something like, "Oh, do you have that thing?" to my parents. They're like, "Oh no, that burned in the
Yeah.
fire." And my dad talks about how sometimes he sort of will like forget the fire and be like, "Oh, let me go get that thing I have," and then he'll remember wait, I don't have any of my things anymore, you know?
Mm.
I think in terms of the emotionality of the fire, like a lot of that I've processed for sure. And I think a big part of it is because I feel like I am a sentimental person and a nostalgic person. I really try to take the time to explore those feelings in the time being. So, for example, I was in New York when it actually happened. Like, I had flown out the day of the fires in the morning and having no idea, obviously, that there was going to be fires. I basically found out Eastern time the next day that the house had burned down, but I just really the entire time was just glued to the television and talking to people in LA. I just really didn't have much of a trip. After that, I went back to LA and I went to the site of the house. And when I went to the side of the house, I was digging around to find what I could find. Most things, of course, burned down. But then there was this pottery piece that was broken in about 3 ways, and my mom was saying like, "Oh, that's, ubachang," our Japanese grandmother made it, and I was looking at him like, "I feel like that can be put back together." So I took it and I, grabbed the pieces of it. I grabbed a couple other things that couldn't really become much, but then I started contacting a bunch of places around LA about people who fix things that burned in the fire. And I said, "Can you fix this? Can you fix this?" And then I contacted this kintsugi place, which is a Japanese art form of bringing things together, fixing things that are broken basically through an art form. And I contacted a place. I said, "I have this piece. It burned in the fire. I think it can be fixed. Here's the photos of it." And they were just so kind. They immediately, said, "Come bring it in. We're not going to charge you anything." But they put it back together, and that piece I gave it as a surprise to my parents. And I think that process was very symbolic to me, of kind of like, oh, things that can be broken and things can be an absolute disaster, and you don't get what you used to have ever, but you do get something new, something different, something not everything broken has to be bad, has to be ugly. So that was, I think, going through that, it helped me process.
Yeah. Also, that a broken thing can be put back together and it can be back together in a way that's elevated, right? Isn't this
Yeah.
art form is they use gold?
They use gold, exactly, and I think it's so symbolic for everything in our lives too, of, like, when we feel broken, when we feel like we've just been through hell, that, there's always something that we can do to kind of create something new, and I think that there doesn't have to be an art form for fixing broken things. It could just be, like, ceramics, just, like, make something, but the fact that the whole art form is about taking things that are broken and making them beautiful, I think is very yeah, I think it's a really, like, symbolic, beautiful thing.
And that's what we do with ourselves, right? As we put ourselves back together, we do it by building ourselves up. Now you have this apartment that you really love and you just became a Pilates instructor and something you've worked on for months. You also said how you really leaned on your friends to get through this
Mhm.
period because everyone processes breakups differently. But to me, like breaking up with someone, especially a long term relationship, and then right into the fires, I would think that you're processing both at the same time. And then another breakup, like sometimes they're all sort of together, different
Yeah.
things coming through.
It's so hard to know what it is I'm processing sometimes because you just have all these feelings, and you don't know specifically what's what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Do you feel like because you're also an artist, so do you feel like when you're going through hard or challenging times, you can use your art to help you process your feelings? Or do you feel like you have to be in a mental state to access that?
I absolutely have to turn to art to heal myself. Even when, like, my grandfather died, I had to, like, get a video camera and, like, film his funeral and make this, like, video, like, basically music video that I needed to do to, like, express the how I felt that day. It just has to come out, and it can come out through talking and crying, but I really think when it comes out in making something, that's when I feel that I've given it over to something and that this sadness
Mhm.
and grief can have another life. When I turned 30 years old, and that breakup was from a 7-year relationship, and that was like the first time I had been just so not just heartbroken, but like my life just so instantly changed. And
Mhm.
I wrote a play at that time called The Year of the Solar Eclipse, and it was really just like the only thing I could do. I was about 5 months away from finishing a 2-year acting program, and I just knew that the I didn't think the program was right for where I was emotionally anymore, and I was like,
Mhm.
"I think I need to put it into my own stuff." So, at that point, I quit the studio, and wrote this play, and then this play ended up being something that I think not just changed my life, but I think it changed a lot of people's lives that who were involved in it, that had 2 years of iteration, so it went on to perform in 2 different theaters, and right before the pandemic was at the Wild Project, and it's a big cast, so there was just a lot of people involved and so many friendships made, and, I think all the time if I hadn't had that breakup, that play would not exist.
That's like one of the good things you were talking about before that can come from the hard stuff. Well, it's more like you created the opportunity, right? Like something happened
Yeah.
and you can have 10 people respond to it in a completely different way. And I'm sure you still live in LA. I'm sure you know people who, you know, had certain experiences with the fires who haven't responded the way you have. You just wrote a short now that you were raising money
Yes.
for and you're
Yeah.
in pre-production
Mhm.
for, right?
Yes, that shoots in May. It's actually a piece I wrote a couple years ago, but I've been reworking it over the past 2 years, and now I'm just so excited to have it come to life, and the fact that I even just have a team on board for this is just, like, it's so exciting, and it really gives me motivation. Because when you're just by yourself in your creative project, I think you have to be the motivator of everything, but when you have people who are relying on you who are very talented, you just don't wanna fuck up your, opportunity to work with them.
Yeah, don't embarrass yourself or let anybody down.
Do you feel like you need to process it first to write about it, or do you like to write about it in it? Because sometimes people like to have distance from the event before they make it art.
I think a little bit of both, actually. I started writing my one woman show while I was very much processing a really big change in my life. And I was able to get through a lot of it. But then I hit this roadblock where I could not, for the life of me, figure out how to wrap it up. I felt like I was like really forcing it, forcing it, forcing it. And it was just not happening. And I had to accept that I
Mhm.
actually needed some distance. And now I feel
Okay.
like I've given myself quite enough distance and I'm ready to come back to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't need to process before I was able to start it. It's more about kind of what you're talking about. Like you wrote this project a couple of years ago, and then it took you a little time to come back to get a fresh eye and maybe like piece some of the puzzle together.
And I think this is a rare project in which it's not about my personal experience because I feel like I'm always writing from personal experience. And it is about something that, it's historical. Yes, it's called Bye Bye Blackbird. And it is about a Japanese woman and her family who are going through the Japanese incarceration that happened in 1942 after Pearl Harbor happened. Japanese community, mostly on the West Coast, but all over, especially on the West Coast, were all asked to leave no matter what percentage of Japanese blood you had in you. And they were put into a incarceration camp site. And that was many years that they were locked up in there. And it is something it seems surprising to me, but a lot of people don't seem to know that much about it or know about it at all. I actually went to watch the documentary, and the Canadians, although we wanna believe Canada doesn't do anything bad, they also, were part of this and actually deported a lot of Japanese. So, anyhow, it was just a lot of stuff that happened that I didn't know about the Canadians either and things like that. So,
Mhm.
yeah. When I was learning about it, of course, the camps are so overwhelming and hard for me to even like grasp my mind about what it'd be like to be there. But I was kind of thinking about the anxiety leading up to it and when you have to go and when everything's changed. So it's like now your origin country has attacked America and now people are turning and looking at you as the villain no matter what you've done. And obviously this is something that happens in modern day times as well to, different groups of people. I wrote this script and then we've seen ICE unfold, and it really definitely validated to me the importance of this story because of the fact that there's a lot that's changed and a lot that has not changed.
Have you ever read the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert?
Yes.
Yes. As you were explaining the timeline, I was thinking, how wild is it that you wrote this a couple of years ago and now you're in pre production? You're going to start shooting in just a couple of months while we have this whole situation going on with ICE.
I did think it was very interesting what she says in the book about how these creative ideas exist in sort of the sky and sort of the air, and you could have this idea and I could have this idea and we could have ideas that are just so similar or even the exact same, and how they can exist in that she more thinks about these ideas as like things available to people to grab, and that more people than one, and if one person doesn't make it work, someone else will make it work.
It's like if you're tapped in, it's like the universe is dropping down these different artistic ideas and who's going to scoop them up.
Mhm.
And how sometimes it's
Yeah.
not yours. And I've definitely learned that. I'm sure you have as a creative person too. You probably have ideas all the time, or you think,
Yeah.
oh, this could be a great play. This would be an amazing screenplay. But it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean it's your story to tell.
Yeah. That's so true. Yeah, and it's good to figure out what is your story to tell,
Yeah.
and when you're involving yourself in things.
I
Yeah.
think that's why it is so good, though. Like you said before, this is the first project you've done that isn't, I mean, it is personal in certain ways, but it's not as personal as like your lived story. And
Exactly.
I think
Yeah.
that's why that is such a great place to start, by telling pieces of your story, because nobody else can tell it. They might tell,
Mhm.
you might listen to an album or see a TV show or whatever, a scene in a movie, and it's reminiscent of something you went through, but no one is going to be able to tell your story.
Do you, as an actor and artist, like, do you prefer to find things that you're like, "I have been through that similar thing, so I wanna be part of this project to tell that story," or do you feel more inclined to things that are totally, totally outside of your scope? I mean, maybe I'm sure it's, like, a bit of both.
The things that feel really close, I want to tell them. I think the roles I gravitate towards are not similar at all to things I've been through. Yeah.
Interesting. Do you
Yeah.
mostly do drama?
Yeah, I would say I mostly do drama. I'm funny, but like people don't know and I don't know how to tell
You
them.
are so funny.
Nobody knows.
She's very funny.
Just to change gears, I'd ask you, when you're going through hard times, what are the things you wish people said to you?
Mm.
And I thought it was so funny, but you said, you can't see it now, but things are going to get so much better. And then you wrote how, well, I guess I actually have heard that, but it's so hard to believe in the moment. You get through the hard shit and then you hear a song and you're like, that's what it means.
It's all clicking now.
All clicking. Yeah. You've listened to that song like your whole childhood.
My God, you're like, finally. No, because it's true that people will always tell you, you can't see it now. It's going to get better. This is for your greater good. This is all like, it is very, and listen, I do think there's situations in life that I feel that I'm an optimistic person in general, but I also do want to be like realistic about just, things that thing just really is hard and sucks. And you can like make some kintsugi out of it to a point, but some things are really hard. But when you're going through things like breakups, they are, of course, a death, and a death of your own identity and a death of that partnership. But I do think that that saying of like, you can't see it now, things will get better, is very true for that. There's not a ton of breakup where it doesn't get better eventually. I mean, God, I hope
I think
so.
so too. I saw this quote today and it said, the difference between men and women healing. And obviously, we're talking about like the average guy, heteronormative
Mhm.
relationships. But it said when men and women go through breakups, men have an ego death and women
Mm.
realize that they're amazing and the center of the universe.
That's so funny.
Like, yeah, that's why we tell each other like it'll get better, because it always gets better. Breaking up with them, or if they broke up with you, it turns out it was all for your benefit.
Yeah, it's just so hard to see it, and like I think depending so much on the breakup itself and your role in it and whatnot, it can just be so it's just like so mind fucky, the whole experience. Yeah. But God, I hope things get better. I mean, yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, well, they definitely can't get worse. So
I asked my mom the other day, I said, "Mom, do you think I'll be alone forever?" And she said, "I don't think so, but you never know." And then she's like, "Well, life is long."
she's like, no, you have some redeeming qualities. Like there's probably
Yeah,
someone who would like you, but
right. And
who
I was
knows?
like,
Maybe
"But
not.
mom, I'm like kind of cool." And she was like, "Yeah, that's true."
I heard someone said the other day, what if you spend the rest of your life single? Can you imagine that? And there was definitely a
Mm.
period in my life where there's absolutely no way I could have imagined that. I mean, I just wasn't single for like really ever. It was kind of like relationship to relationship. And now it being, over a year and change, it's not so bad. I mean, it hasn't been years and
Yeah.
years. I'm not like a decade in, but like it's really not this horrible thing I thought it was.
Absolutely. I think that's a really interesting topic because I've been hearing more about that, about how women with times changing, so like women are just less wanting to be in relationships, right? What do you think has been the benefits and the stresses about it?
You were talking about kintsugi and putting the broken pieces back together,
Yeah.
and then all of the things that you've done to put yourself back together.
Mhm.
Getting this place you love, Pilates, your community art, friends. And I feel like the more I've accepted and allowed myself to enjoy being single, I've also realized how many things there are in life, just how many things there are to do, and all of the things that make life really exciting. And it's not just romantic relationships. And for me, taking that off, not pedestalizing that anymore, has put it on par with all of the other things, right? So the old version of me would have seen that as the ultimate goal, the thing I absolutely needed in order to be happy.
Yeah.
And now, because it's not there, being in a relationship is competing with all of my hobbies, all of my friends, travel, acting, creating my own work, new experiences, that it has to be really great for me to want to be in it.
I think you get so much more intentional about your time and how you want to spend it and what's worth your time, especially because dating is it's a roller coaster. But I do feel like dating is can be a very brave act because you keep putting yourself out there, something doesn't work, and then you feel bummed about it, or you don't care, or whatever your feelings are about it. But I love hearing about, I know you have been so active in like, you love life and you've been doing all of these things and the podcast and your workouts and all of the artist way, which is its own whole thing. And
So fun.
all of the things that you're doing. It's just very inspiring because it feels like you are touching on all the things that make you you. And you're like, I don't want to lose grip of these things and I want to nurture those things. And it is very hard if you're in a very serious relationship, especially in like sort of relationships take a lot of time and is you can't always be putting into, so much in yourself, especially as women. I think we are naturally nurturers and we fall more into that position. At least I know I will kind of get in that position in relationships where I'm really like about thinking about them and what do they need, and all of that is really beautiful and it can be beautiful to be in the right relationship. But yeah, it's a lot
But
of
you wanna
work
be careful,
too.
right? Because if you get into a relationship with someone who's like, maybe they're not taking care of themselves and you're a caretaker, you're gonna step up and fill the
Mhm.
void. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think also, like, you mentioned these couple of breakups, and same, the older you get, the more you go through that, the more you wanna be more intentional, and like your mom said, we could end up alone and not single. It's okay, we'll get, like, a commune of tiny houses. That's my other dream.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah.
We'll be fine. But knowing that a lot of relationships do end and you might go through a breakup, you still don't wanna set yourself up for hardship. Like, as much as yeah, dating is, like you said, it is brave because when you're putting yourself out there, you're having to be vulnerable, but you're also opening
Mhm.
yourself up to rejection, which is what you said before with, like, the emotional resiliency and these auditions, right?
Mhm.
You show up as
Yep.
the fullest
It
version of
all
you.
is similar. Yep.
Yeah, you put yourself out there and it might be a no, and that just sucks.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was waiting to hear back if I passed my Pilates test or not, which there was a lot of suspense because I was not told until the next day in the morning,
Mm.
but I I had to kind of talk to myself about how I might deal with if the results are not what I want. And it's all in the same line as rejection and emotional resilience, like you said, and being able to feel your feelings about it, but not take it so hard that it like crushes your soul, like makes you stop believing in love or makes you feel like, I can't do the Pilates thing anymore. It just, I didn't pass. Or I can't do the acting thing anymore because I'm not getting, so it just takes a lot of like bravery to keep showing up to these things. And I think people in more traditional work sets from the career standpoint have a bit of a different experience. But I think for artists and entrepreneurs and creators, there is this thing where you have to kind of continue to learn to have tools to deal with disappointment if it does come.
I'm reading The Artist's Way, and in this last week, or the latest week, which I think is 9, she basically says the difference between a successful and an unsuccessful artist is just your ability to handle the rejection, essentially like your emotional resiliency.
There is a lot of truth to that. It's like if you keep going for many years, like something will click at some point. Something.
Yeah, I think if your goal is to make this sustainable, you have to love it. And we know that the longer we're doing it, the people who are also doing it with us for years and years, they're also the people who absolutely love it, who literally cannot imagine their life without it.
But we will at some point reach a point where you just figure out, is this for me or not? And that
Totally.
involves the emotional resilience, which is an interesting theme of this conversation.
I know. That's also what's interesting too, I've noticed about like having these more intentional conversations with people is I will go into it thinking it's going to be about something, and then it
Mm-hmm.
ends up being about something else. Like the
Oh.
less, well, this is a life lesson for everything and art. But it's like, when you're making a movie, you write the
Mm-hmm.
script, that's
Yeah.
one version. You shoot it, that's a different version. Then you edited it, and that's a third version. And I'm
So
feeling like
true.
that is a reflection of so many things in life. And like with this podcast too, the less I control it and the more I allow the conversation to just evolve sort of naturally, we end up in a
Yeah.
place that might not have been what I thought, but is actually really important.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really beautiful. You just never know where it's gonna go when you release control.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, the emotional resilience thing you're talking about too, we're talking about like as artists, as creative, performative art too, particularly. It's the same in love. Absolutely.
It is a lot about being like, "This is where I'm at," and it's like, we also do get better, I think, as long as you're doing some work on yourself as people, we do get better. I went into 2026 telling myself, "I will not have drama this year," which I know I cannot fully control, but I just had a very dramatic past year or so. I just feel like, was I showing up the best in all those situations? Like, I do play a part in this too, even if I am dealing with people that I think are very difficult. So it is something that I've kind of gone into 2026 being like, just trying to be very aware of like my interactions with people, and if I'm feeling like where there might be conflict or something, I do now I'm kind of like taking a step back just to reflect on the dynamic.
Yeah. I heard this quote sometime last year, and I don't think this is always the case because there are exceptions and there are some people who are just, they're kind of assholes and they suck to be around. But the quote
Mhm.
was, the people who trigger you the most trigger you because it activates a part of you that you don't like. Ugh. I know.
Ugh.
Yep. And you're like, thanks. Now I have to deal with this part of me.
Exactly. It sucks. I have to face it and then think about where it comes from and whatnot. I don't know. I probably go too deep into all these things
Sometimes
thinking
I'm
of,
like, maybe I
you
don't.
know?
Maybe I just can like not talk to them. I can just like not deal with it, right? This is like
Yeah.
I can stay away sometimes.
Definitely, different people trigger different things in you, and yeah, it's so hard because I'm assuming this person is also in someone's life because there is love, or else there would not be heartache or struggle, whether that's a family member, a friend, or a romantic person.
So you said you're 3/4 of the way through the darkness, which that's very honest. And I feel like a lot of times we want to be like, yeah, and now I'm like amazing and everything's perfect. And I think, speaking of vulnerability, like it takes being vulnerable to say, I'm not totally through the shit. But you did say you're starting to love and enjoy your new life. And I know you mentioned some of the things, but I just wanted to hear you talk about what you love about your life so much right now.
Okay, yes. I'm really enjoying being able to nurture a lot of my friendships because my
Mhm.
friendships are like family to me, and it has chosen family, and I don't think I always had the opportunity to like fully nurture them in such a wholehearted way, and I'm just so grateful because those relationships can really fulfill you a lot. Like they may not be specifically, what sort of a romantic situation might be, but I do think they really go quite a long way. I also have I mean, I've loved doing Pilates, and I'm excited to go into this new chapter of finding a job and teaching people and helping people. Like, I'm really excited about that. And I'm super excited to make my film Blackbird. And I'm super excited to develop as an actor. I actually went back to acting class last night after being gone for a couple months.
Oh. Where are you
I'm
going?
normally at the last acting studio.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm normally in class, but I did take a chunk of time when I was going through a lot, and I was also going through my Pilates training. And I think it was definitely the right thing to do, but I've been itching to be back in class and back into a creative environment. So I'm excited to just be able to devote more time to that as well. And I think that's and yeah, and just continue to kind of like ride this new wave and figure out my boundaries and what I want and need. And I think it's all a roller coaster up and down.
One battle after another.
One after.
I've gone through this phase in my life where I've been, especially all of the stuff I've been through the last couple of years, waiting for life to calm down and to be on steady
Mhm.
ground. And then I went, but what if there's always something going on and I just have to decide what's steady enough? I'm like waiting for the rock to settle. But when do I go, okay, the rock is settled enough for me to, put a chair down?
Yeah, that's so true. We're like waiting, yeah, for things to be different.
If you're waiting for all the circumstances to be totally perfect, you're going to wait a long time. You're going to have a lot of excuses because it's just not. There might be like a health thing, energy, money, time, job, responsibilities, pet, travel. Like there's always going to be something, but it's again like, how are you going to make it work?
Yeah, I mean, that is another thing that I am really, really grateful for is just to be in good health, knock on wood. This is not wood, but
That's a
I
couch.
my wooden couch.
You're walking through your cedar couch.
Like maybe that's what under this. It, because I have experienced like health things in the past, and I really think that, man, when you like really can't use your body in the way you want to, I really don't. I think it's really tough, at least for me. Like, I am so grateful to whenever I have good health because I'm like, not being able to use your body is just like it is something that we take it for granted because most of us feel good every day, you know?
So, what would you, because everyone processes things differently, obviously, and they have to figure out what works for them. What would you say to someone who is going through a challenging time and is trying to figure out what they need to do to take care of themselves? Because we'll hear that phrase a lot like, you have to take care of yourself, but that could mean a lot of different things to different people.
I think that taking care of yourself truly is gonna seem in the beginning a little boring in the sense that, like, I do really think first making your body the priority and making sure just basics like getting sleep, eating things that feel good in your body, moving your body, getting sunshine. I've started doing things like I'll try to do something different. Like I'm not always a big like hiking person, but I started doing that because I was like, you know what? Nature, sunshine, it all makes sense. And I started going to hot yoga. So when you do those things, like, obviously, it's cliche in that sense, but I really think when you do those things, it can feel boring in the sense that you're not, like, going out and, like, getting wasted or something. And obviously, you have to have, like, your girls' nights out and stuff or your your friend nights out. But I think taking care of yourself in a really basic way can go a really long way. And I think that it's not something you do once, but you really make that your lifestyle. And I do think you just start to feel better and you realize your energy is like, I think your energy is more available to you then to put towards things that you love. And I think journaling, processing, I know something you and I have talked about is being in your feelings and allowing your feelings to be there and to process that and to talk about it and to do things. And then also finding moments to give yourself a little break from it, even though it's hard, but find things that when you start doing them, and for me, that was like acting in Pilates and doing my own project. It's like when you're focused in that you can't sort of obsess over the things that are haunting you. You have to be so present. So things that will bring you inside your body and make you present, I think are very helpful.
Yeah, well, you're describing Maslow's hierarchy of needs, actually. Which
Mhm.
I love that is like taking care of yourself on the most basic level, right? Like I can remember a couple of years ago going through just a horrible time and I had to remind myself to wash my face, remind
Yeah.
myself to drink a glass of water. Not "Oh, I'm trying to drink 8 glasses a day, but like a glass of water. And
Yeah.
then once you have that, you can move on to taking care of yourself emotionally and whatever that looks like, processing your
Mm.
feelings, reading, journaling, doing things for your health, giving yourself a break, which probably means going out with your friends,
Yeah.
community, emotional support. Yeah, I think art is a great way to sort of, art can be a way to process things. It can also be a great escape. Going to museum, watching a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
CrossFit was a huge one for me, moving my body. I
Mhm.
was throwing around, my body weight. I couldn't think about all my problems. I mean, sometimes I would
Yeah.
cry because did that happen to you ever in Pilates where you would be moving your body in a certain way and start crying? Like it would bring up
Yeah.
emotions?
Yeah, for sure. Crying in workouts is a thing.
Underrated. You're missing out.
Yeah, everyone's got to do it.
You gotta do it. It's what the cool
Join the
girls are doing.
club. In the beginning of these things, when you're just trying to do the basics, I do know, at least for me, and I think you've told me this too, it's really difficult to watch things and read things and like watch content and movies and TV shows.
Oh my God. I didn't watch anything for like 6 months. I couldn't read a book for like 8 months of my life.
I have the same thing as you. Now I've actually been trying to watch most of the Oscar films, and it's been really fun because I feel like I'm at a place where I can watch like however amount of movies and be sucked into the story. And I'm like, oh, thank God, like this is what art is about.
Aren't you glad to be an artist?
Oh my gosh. It's a blessing and a curse.
It really is, but when I think of the opposite, or if I think of someone who hasn't discovered what they're passionate about and
Yeah.
what their art is, because I do think everyone is creative and everyone is an artist. Maybe they don't want to live an artistic lifestyle,
Yeah.
but I
Mhm.
do think everyone has their art form. But it is sad to think not everyone's discovered that. And I know sometimes we have the heartache of not getting to do the thing we love all the time, but aren't you so grateful to at least know what that is? And you have multiple things too.
I am very grateful. You're right. My mom is Japanese and has a more like, I don't know, very matter of fact approach, as you can see. She told me once that like my ability to express myself emotionally and to be in touch with my feelings is such a gift that I had. And like in the moment, I didn't really feel that way, but I get what she's saying because I look at a lot of people who can't feel their feelings and feelings are really hard. And I know, obviously I don't always like to feel my feelings too, but I think that being an artist, we have this outlet.
Thank God. Well, is there anything else you would like to share besides life is one battle after another?
Oh my God.
So good.
Life is one battle after another.
She's a soldier.
I will say this, I will think of it as like in a comedic way too. You know what I mean? It's just like there's a funny lens of it because it's just like hysterical that once you like pass one thing, you're like, okay, I've like reached this zone of like, oh, okay, now there's a new thing.
Yeah, you have to laugh.
A lot of things are perspective and point of view and how you decide to approach things.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would even say that almost everything is about perspective.
It really is. Yeah, and this has been a good conversation to remind myself that because I think we have to think about like why we step into the negative, and I think sometimes that is a form of self-protection and a form of self-defense.
It's all coming from a good place.
Yeah.
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 Well,
Yeah.
thank you for doing this. I mean, half the reason I started this is because I just want to talk to my friends. I
Yeah.
thought,
I'm so
well,
happy you're doing this. This is so cool.
yeah, have intentional conversations with the people I love and have
Yeah.
them share a little bit of wisdom and how, despite what we're all going through, what we've been through, we all have experiences that we are totally not anticipating. And then it's how do we ride that wave?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm really happy you have this podcast because you've always been very insightful and intentional, and you have also been through a lot. And I think that you're coming from a place of knowing and really gone through things that make you a more like just a deep person with a lot of wisdom.
Thank you. Yeah, we get to, decide how we want to alchemize it, turning
Oh
the
my
shit
God.
into gold.
That's probably better than one battle after another.
But it's one battle after another so that you can turn the shit into gold.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I
They go
love
hand
it.
in hand. Okay. Well, it was lovely to talk to you.
Lovely to talk to you
Thanks for being
too. Thanks
here.
for having me.
Thanks for listening to Caught Off Guard. If you connected with this episode, or even if you didn't, please subscribe and leave a review, but only a nice one. It'll really help more people find the show. You can find us on Instagram at Caught Off Guard Pod. See you next time.